So the third Wolverine movie in the Wolverine X-Men franchise, spin-off franchise, I guess, has finally come out, and it is apparently Patrick Stewart's and Hugh Jackman's final X-Men movie, Logan. I'm talking about Logan, if you didn't already understand or see it.
She's like you, very much like you.
I am not whatever it is you think I am.
For me, this film was almost a complete 50-50. I know a lot of people really like this movie and are saying that it's like the first Oscar-worthy comic book movie since The Dark Knight. For me, it's not at all. It's not really even close. That being said, I still enjoyed the movie. I think I should start off by talking about some positives that I had for this movie. So if you're thinking of going to see this just because it's an X-Men movie and I gotta see it, I want to see the final chapter, it's probably not that R. I could probably get away with it. But no, this is a hard R movie. There is a lot of gore, there's a lot of violence, and it is awesome. The action scenes in this movie are the highlight of Logan. They are very well executed and very graphic and extremely violent, and it's about time, really. Like, it's about time we got this kind of action movie. While it is an X-Men movie, first, it's more of just a regular movie, which was kind of surprising. It didn't really try to shove in a lot of the X-Men and a lot of, we got superpowers and we're gonna have to fight the big super monster at the end and there's a beam in the sky and the debris is falling and killing people and buildings are toppling over. It's very restrained. It's just a movie. It's more of a character study. And while I like character studies, this one just didn't do much for me outside of the action, which again I loved. I mean, it's about time that we got this kind of action in our Wolverine movie. I mean, this is the best Wolverine movie out of the three that we've gotten. I can pretty easily say that this is the best one between Origins and the Wolverine, the Chinese Wolverine one. So it's pretty easy to say that this is the best Wolverine movie, and if you like the character of Wolverine, you'll probably love this movie. Like, he is done service, really. I mean, with the R rating, he is able to be that crusty old, just not care about anything guy that we like. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but this movie is about an hour too long. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, I believe, and that is too long for this movie. It's probably 45 minutes to an hour too long. There's the middle segment of this movie feels like nothing is happening. It even starts to feel like they're making it up as they go along. It was very bizarre. The first 20-ish minutes of this movie, 20-30 minutes, is kind of set up. There's a couple action scenes. There's a couple really good action scenes where he's killing some Mexicans who are trying to steal his tires or his hubcaps or something. And that was a great scene, and then there's this big car chase scene where he runs into a fence and has to back up and taking people out with the barbed wire fence, and that was a great scene. And then after that, everything starts to fall apart. The story basically is, Logan, I need you to take my not daughter, my superhuman not daughter, to this place called Eden to meet up with her friends who are also superhumans. And Logan says, no. And she says, please, I'll give you money. And he says, oh, okay. And then he takes her to the place. And that's it. That is the story. That is the movie. 2 hours, nearly 2.5 hours. And what's worse is the middle segment. Again, the middle segment is the worst part of this movie. The worst part of that middle segment is the fact that Logan finds out that they got this Eden place from a comic book and it matches all the coordinates exactly, and he starts to think, oh, it's not real, I'm not taking them there. So about 45 minutes of this movie, of this middle portion of the movie, the story isn't even taking place because he doesn't want to do it. So what is happening? Nothing is happening in this movie for about 45 minutes. They go to a place, the bad guys are right behind them, oh, they go to another place. Bad guys are right behind them, oh, they go to another place. Bad guys are right behind them. And occasionally they get in an action scene and somebody gets killed. A lot of the bad guys get killed. And it's just like stoppy-starty. It's just like, okay, we're going, oh, no, okay, we're going, oh, no. It just, like, it feels like they're making it up as they go along. It's like they got the first part of the movie down. They know what they're doing. Then the last part of the movie, they know how they want to end it. But they don't know how to fill the rest in, and it starts to feel like filler. It starts to feel like blatant filler to a movie that they mostly have. They have two halves, or 2/3, I mean. They have 2/3 pretty much down. There's obviously some minor things in each third that I didn't like, mainly story-wise. Anytime that there was action, I was fine with that. But the story just bogs this movie so far down. And I think a lot of that has to do with the script writers. There are three script writers on this movie. 3 people that wrote the screenplay. And these 3 people have such hit films as Marley and Me, The Green Lantern, and The Wolverine under their belt, and various others. These guys have not really written a good movie. And it shows. It shows in the middle portion because the pacing suffers so harshly. It's just, we're going and oh, it's just over and over again. It just dips. As soon as the action scenes end, the movie falls like a rock. There's actually portions of this movie where I was bored. An R-rated X-Men movie with people, with Wolverine, with claws coming out of his hands, slicing people's heads off. I was bored. So the 3 characters, the 3 main characters of the movie don't really get built in any good way for the first hour and a half of the movie. They just kind of sit around and do things. They just sit around and talk about a movie. They sit around and talk about a comic book. They sit around and talk about how Logan doesn't care about anyone. They sit around and talk about how Patrick Stewart's insane. It just doesn't really build to anything. And that's why the middle 45 to an hour of this movie is bland as crap. Even when some minor action scenes happen, like when Professor X has a seizure and it freezes the entire block, even that didn't work for me. And why? Because he has a seizure in the beginning of the movie, in the first maybe 15, 20 minutes, and it incapacitates, what's his name, Albino Man, and Wolverine is like crawling across the floor and he stabs him with the needle, and it's like a minute long. And the albino man comes out and he says, I almost died. We need to get a better dose of these drugs. I was suffocating. And then in this middle segment, when he has this seizure and it incapacitates like an entire block, and everyone in the casino's like frozen, Wolverine goes from like a bar downtown to the hotel, up an elevator, through a hallway with his blades, and then kills like 10 people, and then gives Patrick Stewart the sedative to where he stops having his seizure. It's like a 10-minute long scene. How did nobody die except for the people that Wolverine impaled? How did nobody die? And that's what I kept thinking about that scene. Like, there's good scenes in the movie, good ideas like that, where he incapacitates an entire block and Wolverine has to go and, get him out of it quick or people are gonna die. But they just don't die. It takes like 10 minutes. How do people not die? If like Albino Man says, people are suffocating, how are they not dying?
In the real world, people die.
Logan.
I don't want to talk about it.
Logan.
Just stop.
Be careful. I need the girl.
What girl?
Go get her.
But this movie, there's so little action. It's used so sparsely throughout the movie that anytime something doesn't make sense logically, it stands out. It stands out really hard because there isn't a story and the characters don't really grow in any meaningful way until the last 30 minutes. So there's really nothing happening, and that's even made more apparent when the story that they've set up, they completely disregard when Logan says, it's a comic book, Eden is in a comic book, I'm not taking you there. And for 45 minutes, he's like, I'm not taking him there. So the story isn't even happening. So when things don't make sense or things don't work with the rest of the movie, they stand out like a sore thumb. And I really, really wanted this movie to be great. I really wanted it to be the movie that everyone's talking about, how it's just so heart-wrenching and so emotional, and it just isn't. There isn't enough character, there isn't enough story, and there isn't enough action, really, to move this movie forward. Anytime the action's happening, it moves at a breakneck pace, and as soon as it's over, the pacing issues come up horribly. There's some scenes that go on for 10 minutes that don't even need to be in the movie. So for those reasons alone, I'd say I'd give Logan maybe a 6 out of 10. I liked the movie for the most part. I liked the action, I liked the performances, and I liked what they did with the characters to start out. It's just the fact that they didn't build on the characters pretty much at all until the last 10 minutes, and the fact that the story doesn't really happen. There isn't much of a story. And when you don't have a story, you need characters. You need characters to be put in situations where they have to make choices, where they have to do things that affect other people. And that doesn't happen in this movie. They just are people that kind of go to other places, that just kind of keep going and going and going. They go to this place, and then they go to another place, and they go to another place, and they go to another place. And it's just this repetitive, boring movie that doesn't ever know when to stop or ever know when to cut things. And that really has an effect on the pacing. Like I said, the pacing in this movie is absolutely horrific. We wanted to see this since X-Men 1 in 2001 or something? We've wanted to see this movie, so I can understand why people love it so much. It is well made. I'd say it's very well made. Technically, it's a solid movie. It just didn't do anything for me. So in the end, again, I'd give this a 6 out of 10. If you like the X-Men movies, you'll probably love this movie. So go see it. And that's really all I can say. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.